Hey there, Russ here. Welcome back to the shop. Okay, I'm going to talk about the Ryobi battery and about I made this, how you can make this little push on, push off connector onto the battery to be able to use that battery as a portable power. Um, First thing I'm going to do is this, I got to warn you, this is going to be a rambling, so this is probably going to take a while to get everything out. So I'll go over real quick all the information about this little adapter because it's really about this piece right here and how you can use this piece to make your own adapter. So you can take a Ryobi battery and do a quick connect and be able to hook up electric power and get power from this and be able to pull it right off. All the ones I've done up to now have always been you got to intervene and lock it down. So you have to drop it on. I started off with one of these, piece of PVC pipe. You put it on and you lock it down. And now I have my electric power right here from this battery. So I can do all sorts of things with it. That part now, to go from this to this, which is really one of the things I really wanted to do, so that some of the things I want to build, this is going to be a much better way to take my battery and plug it in and take it out than to have to tighten it down every time. So to do this type of connector, this is the part you need. This is a well-kept secret apparently with Ryobi, because you can't even buy this part from Ryobi that I found so far. Now maybe you can, I just haven't found it. Somebody smarter than me, go for it. Let me know what you find, because I'm always looking for information about it. But in order to use these batteries, and you want a slip-on connector, this is the part you want. This is called a contact plate holder assembly, and I bought mine. I bought 5 of these for $4 a piece. On eBay, they'll run you anywhere from $4 to $12. If you buy them off of Amazon, I think they're $10 a piece. So now I found a source for these. Why you can buy them for $1.42. Now, because I bought these for $4 a piece, and there's a link to where I bought these in the description, but I have not used this other source where I can get it for $1.42. It's an awful good price. Maybe I should just go ahead and order them. If you do order from there, and just, if you would, let me know how successful or how failure it was and why, what you thought about it. I don't know how much they charge in shipping. So I just know that the price is $1.42. That's where I'll go to buy them if I go to buy any more, unless somebody tells me different. So if you have any information, if you do try this, you buy a few from them, get as much information as you can. One thing I'd like to know is, can you order 6 at a time from there without any problem? Or is that something that they wouldn't have in stock at that point? So let me know if you do find it out. I'll pin your comment at the top so that other people can find it easily if you find information about that. So but this is the part you want. This is the part that you're going to make. You can make it from your own cap. This is a 3D printed cap that's available out there like crazy. George, that good friend of mine, it's from Chelsea, Quebec. He has his own channel. He's in my featured channels. George Fouriezos or something along that line. If you ask him, just leave him a comment asking him if he would share the file with you. He will share the file of these two right here. And that way you can build them yourself. If you want to build it out of PVC pipe, I've shown you before in my videos how to do that, which you can also do it that way. They aren't as pretty as those. And it's a little more difficult to make them idiot-proof so you don't put it on backwards, but it can be done. So you don't have to make or buy these things. The only piece you really need is this right here to get a slip-on. And it works marvelous once you get this. So we'll go over all that. And then I'm going to go over the question a little bit about why do I want this? And because there's a couple of ideas that I have, I'm going to go over a couple of them. I'm also going to explain to you, because there's some of you may say, why would I care about that? Well, quick, before you go, we're about to start rambling, so you're forewarned. You have the information to be able to get yourself and build something like this from what I've already said up to now. But why do you want to even have to be able to get to this battery? I just plug it in my screwdriver and it works. That's all I use it for. There's so many things you can do with this as a battery pack. And I'll give you a quick explanation of a story to show you what I'm talking about. there was a gentleman on there, I watched a video that he did, and he had this little electric car that his little toddler would get in and drive around in all over the place. He loved the thing, but it ran down after about an hour or so. Then he'd have to plug it in for 2 hours, and the kid would have to wait while he charged it up, and then he'd take off in it again. It just had this little 12-volt battery in there, like a little, not even as big as a motorcycle battery, probably. That's something around an 8-amp-hour battery, probably, 12-volt. And he took it out. He took 2 flashlights, Ryobi flashlights, and tore the bulb area out of it, took the wires, hooked them up in parallel, and used the flashlight base to plug his Ryobi batteries into. And he took those wires and hooked them up where the other battery was hooked up. And so he was running basically off of 2 Ryobi batteries instead. He took 4 batteries, put 2 in the little cart. The kid would run around for 2 hours on it. Run faster, he said, because it was running at 18 volts instead of 12. So it had a lot more power. But the kid just loved it. But he'd drive it for 2 hours. The batteries would run out. He'd walk out there, throw the other 2 in, take those 2, throw them in the charger. Within an hour, those are charged up, ready to go. Within 2 hours, they'd run out, so the kid could get on that thing and ride it until he fall asleep at the wheel if he wanted to. It just, it would be going constantly as opposed to the way it was. There's a good world solution of using something like this in a way that it wasn't necessarily designed for, but it works and makes something that you have work so much better. So Ryobi batteries actually are a good power pack out there to make so many things from. But being able to do the connector, that is the challenge. So let's go over the history of my connectors, because making these things, actually, there's a lot of things out there that we want to make with it. But when I first started making these, I was trying to make some kind of power pack. So I had a portable power pack that I could carry with me, which is what this is. This is an example of one that I did, my most recent one. It runs off of 1 battery. But I started off with, when I was making the connectors, trying to figure out how to get a hold and be able to tap into the power, the DC power on the 2 terminals on this. My first solution was using a piece of PVC pipe with screwed in bolts. Thread it, tapped, and I drop it on, and then when I tighten the one side down, it pulls it together. This is the positive, this is the negative, and everything lined up. I have it marked on there so you know you're in there right. Contact is there, so now you have your power easily accessible. So I can build a box around this and make a good connection. But I always have to intervene. I have to manually lock it in place, rather than to slip in and on and off like they do with Ryobi tools. And I really kind of wanted to have that for some of the things I was thinking about doing. So that's where this has finally arrived. And I've taken, in fact, when I built this, that's the way this thing works, is the way this thing worked. Now I used this adapter right here. And George, this is our second version that he helped me make. And it has tabs on it so you can actually bolt this in place, so that this then holds down, but I still have to use a screw to tighten it down. And that's what this is. So when I put it in, and I turn this a quarter turn, I have power. And if I want to take it out, I have to unscrew it that quarter turn to take it out, rather than just snap in and snap out. I really wanted to have a snap in, snap out, so I've been playing with that for quite a while. Now that I have this, I took George's original version and modified it, knocked off the little tabs that were in here, the humps, and then I cut holes in here, so this just dropped down in there until it's flat on the top like that, but it's lined up to right here, so that when it's in place, these make contact exactly in place on there, like that, with this on here through there like that. And then I hot glued it on there. So this now just slides right on, and it's on. It says N here, P over there, so that I can quickly know which is positive, negative to hook up. So, and I can hook up to here and get power. I can build a box around this and have all internal wiring. This would be my connector for my battery now. So I now have arrived at where I want to be. So now that you know what you can do with it, and I've shown you one world example where you made something better by going to using these little power packs. First thing I want to tell you is that 3 years ago, I think, or 2.5 years ago, I bought 6 of these, the 5 amp hour ones, and I've been using them around the shop as I would normally use my batteries. But I also use these to experiment with doing other types of tools, like my power outlets. And I started with a 4 battery one where I was taking 4 of these and plugging them in. That gave me 20 amp hours off of power that I could recharge easily here in the shop. And that gave me a nice little power pack. So, but again, it was the connector that was keeping from holding me back. There was a lot of things that I wanted to do with this thing. And for example, one of the things I'm now working on, I think I'm going to build here pretty quick, is I want to take these lights, they're LEDs, and these 8 lights that cost me $1.50 a piece, so there's about $12 here. This puts out almost as much light as Medusa does, the spotlight, the Ryobi one. This is 2800 lumens, and it's pretty bright. And so you can light up a wall area or a room if you turn it upward real easily. So I want to take and make a quick connector on this with an on and off switch, and probably put it on a swivel to be able to swivel it like this, maybe. Just something simple to slip on there. You can pick it up and carry it like a flashlight. You can set it on a shelf and turn it upward, and then it becomes a room light if you want, or directional somewhere if you want. So I think a nice simple little light that you can plug your battery into, and probably from this setup here, I would probably get roughly, I'd say easily 10 hours out of it, probably maybe even 20 out of this setup, out of one battery charge. So it would give you a lot of time to use it. And plus, if it runs out, you quickly just change the batteries out and you keep going, as opposed to the battery being installed on this and you have to then wait, charge it up before you can use it again. By having the battery removable and replaceable instantly, you then make that tool to be able to run constantly without having to stop. So that's what I like about using Ryobi batteries, to run some of the things that you're actually going to run and do and work with. So there's a lot of other simple tools and ideas that I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about some kind of portable fan for this that you can set out on the back deck in the middle of summer and point this thing right at you and get a pretty good breeze from it for several hours, and just make a nice simple little thing that this plugs into, something like that. So if I could adapt this so that I could then plug it into a USB fan, that would be very nice. So I think a simple connector on here with a tree with all sorts of connectors on it, of USB type connectors, there's so many now, that this would make it a handy little thing that you can plug anything into to use for quick power. So there's lots of little adapters I want to make, and I think that these are very handy. And one more thing about this is the 5 amp hour battery. They also make a 9 amp hour version of this. Now think about that, 5 amp to 9 amps. That's a lot more. The problem is that up to now, these things have been dropping in price for 3 years, pretty much. And they're around $25 to $30 a piece for 5 amp hour. The 9 amp hour one was over $100 still. So it was quite a bit more. Those have now dropped in price, and I now can buy one of these in a 9 amp hour for $60. And I'm talking about off of Amazon for this. So if you go look at the Ryobi batteries and look at the generic batteries, I'm not talking about the factory batteries. Those things are quite a bit more. I think their 9 amp is $140, and the aftermarket one is $60. And they say, well, it doesn't have as much power. Okay, I end up with 8.5 amp hours out of it instead of 9 or 8. For the difference in price, it's still a very good buy. And so, even if it's a little underrated, they're well worth the difference in price. I love Ryobi. I love Ryobi tools. Not everything is good with Ryobi. They have some bad stuff out there, and I've talked about it. But that 9 amp hour battery, think about 4 of those instead of 4 of the 5 amp hours. How much of a battery bank does that give you all of a sudden? So I'm thinking I may buy 3 of those, maybe 2, and play with 2 of those 9 amp hour ones and see what I can do with those and what kind of power draw I can get from something like that. Most of the things that I build, it's just plug and use. You don't charge it from the tool. You take the battery out, put it back into a regular charger to charge them. I don't need to work with that part of the system of the Ryobi battery. It works great. You can charge most of these batteries up in an hour and a half or less without any problem. I've never seen these take more than an hour to charge up myself. The 9 amp hour one would probably take a little longer, but you know what? I think that those would still be a great thing to have in my arsenal. So depending on what I need the battery for, sometimes that 9 amp hour battery might be just a ticket. So I think I'm going to get a couple of those and add them to my war chest of batteries. I have like 3 of these, which are 24 watt hours, which is what, 1.5 amp hour. I have 6 of these 5 amp hour ones. So I have plenty of batteries. I don't really need them, but I got to play. So I'm going to buy those 9 amp hours, I think, and then we'll see what we can do with those and what we can incorporate them into doing some of the strange, bizarre things that you see me do with batteries. So also I have a very good idea of, I want to take some of this battery idea of using replaceable batteries, and for a lot of the accessories in my camper van, when I build it, they're actually going to run all the different things off of Ryobi batteries rather than off of one power source in the vehicle itself necessarily. I'm also going to be able to just take and plug a battery into that particular thing, like a row of lights in there, and run the lights for 3 days off of the battery, then replace it with one that's charged up, charge this in the meantime, and I can run my lights anytime I want. And if it run out, I got a spare battery to plug in. So I'm going to decentralize the battery power. Your sink, you put an electric motor in there for running the sink. How long would one of these things run one of those pumps? If you just had one of these plugged in there, you can run it all the time. And if you need the battery for something else for a few minutes, you can pull it out, use it, and put it back in and use it in there again, or switch it out if it runs low. So I think decentralizing all that battery, rather than when your battery goes dead, everything's dead, you still have backup batteries. And I think that would be a great way to just make sure that your spare batteries are always charged up during the day with solar. You can run that whole thing very easily by decentralizing your batteries, and it work better than off of one big house battery like everybody always does. It's just a thought. It's something I'm thinking about, and I'm thinking about what I can run and can't run off of Ryobi batteries. So I think there's a lot of things you can do with these. So making the connectors has been a big step forward for me to start doing other things. I know I've been rambling a lot. I told you I was going to. But these are some of the things that I've been thinking about these batteries. And I am playing with these. So stay tuned. We'll know when they're done with any of this stuff. I think we're going to have a lot more going on with these batteries. I do jump around a lot. I'm also working on, I've already built 2 stops for my last video about my miter gauge. I built some stops for it now. One that swings up out of the way, and one that just slides back and forth and is just there. So, and I'll show you that, but I'm also doing something with the Incrajig, trying to get it adapted to that. Once I've done that, then I'll give you an update on that, show you some of those attachments. So there's still lots of things I'm doing around here. I get bored if I do one thing too much. So I appreciate everybody coming by. I've seen I'm getting a lot more views now than I used to. I want to welcome anybody that's new to this. If you look at a lot of my past videos, you'll see a lot of other things that I've talked about in the past that they're out of the box for sure. So if you leave a comment on any of them, I answer everything that you want to look for. So, and if you want to know about something in particular, I probably already talked about it. Just let me know and I'll point you to where it is. So, but welcome to the channel. I like to think that I'm here for mostly every day. So if you have questions on the fly, usually I can try to help you if I can. So thanks for coming by. If you have any comments, any thoughts, any ideas about what I'm doing, just leave them in the comments below. I do accept pictures of your projects at times. So if you want to share, my email address, as you saw, is right up here. So OTB Thinker, CPAMommy.com. So anyway, leave your comments if you have any. If you learned something here, you like this video, hit that like button. Especially if you still like the rambling, because there was a lot of that going on today. Most importantly, though, please come back again, because, as I always say, I'm nowhere near done. So, enjoy your cup of coffee, and we'll talk to you guys again soon. Bye.